You may have heard of strange cases of people bursting into flames out of nowhere and with no apparent source of ignition. It's called spontaneous human combustion, and it's a pretty mysterious phenomenon. But is it real? And how does it work?
Nameless.
For centuries, people have debated spontaneous human combustion, or SHC, since the idea of someone catching on fire with no observable source of ignition seems pretty preposterous. Not to mention that instances of SHC happen without witnesses. But there have been about 200 reports of it in the last 300 years. Recently, in 2011, the body of a 76-year-old man named Michael Faherty was found near an open fire in his Ireland apartment. I say body, but much of Mr. Faherty was reduced to dust and ashes. Strangely, other than his body, investigators found no other damage to the home, which led the coroner to state, "I'm left with the conclusion that this fits into the category of spontaneous human combustion." Whoa. Explanations for spontaneous human combustion vary, but the general consensus is that it's not technically a real thing. However, victims do frequently tend to have a few things in common. They're often elderly females, and the hands and feet of the victim usually fall off. But otherwise, the fire has caused little damage to combustible things near the body. And, most importantly, some lighted substance has usually come in contact with the body. In other words, the burned bodies are often near possible sources of ignition, such as lamps, fireplaces, or cigarettes, which kind of dispels the whole spontaneous aspect. Many scientists actually point to this factor when dismissing spontaneous human combustion as a plausible phenomenon. In fact, most scientists agree it's never really spontaneous. One explanation involves the wick effect, which suggests that a small external flame source, like a cigarette, has come into contact with the victim's clothing. This causes the victim's skin to split and release subcutaneous fat, which is what lies directly under the skin. The fat gets absorbed into the burned clothing and acts as a wick, kind of like an inside-out candle. This is actually what gives the appearance of a fire starting from within a victim's body. And the wick effect has actually been successfully tested with pig tissue. But, on the other hand, believers of spontaneous human combustion point to the fact that the human body needs to be a temperature of over 1600 degrees Celsius in order to be turned to dust and ashes. And temperatures that high would surely cause furniture to burn as well. Proposed causes most consistently point to excessive alcohol consumption, which can create a buildup of the flammable substance acetone in the body. So, it's thought that in these cases, a person may have enough acetone in their body that even a tiny spark from something like static electricity could cause them to catch fire. Forensic evidence has also shown there to be a correlation between the victim's death and level of intoxication. In some spontaneous combustion cases, a state of intoxication has likely led to the victim being incapacitated and unable to seek help. Is genuinely spontaneous human combustion a real thing? Probably not the spontaneous part.